I am a Holocaust survivor. The book is from a perspective of a survivor. On one side is the fight for survival of a teenager, but also it exemplifies the fight of survival for survival of all the Jews. My professional uh, background and my personal background kind of merge in this book because I am examining what was happening during the Holocaust through the eyes of a forensic psychiatrist and also someone who has not only my own experiences in mind and not only the literature, but also the fact that I have examined hundreds and hundreds of survivors. I probably examined more survivors than anyone in the country. I was trying to survive on false identity in an environment that was extremely difficult, even for non-Jews. But a Jew, not only that you had to hide your identity, but you were surrounded by hostile population. By and large, there were occasionally people who were helpful, but to be an anti-Semite, to be a Jew hater, was a badge of honor. If you were helping a Jew, you had to keep it a secret, because that was not something that you could be proud of. I was living on false papers among people who were very hostile to the Jews, who were eager to uncover a Jew and denounce him, one, because they got rewarded for it, and two, for noble reasons, because they hated Jews and felt that Jews should be exterminated. So I was surrounded with people eager to find out. But you see also what you need to realize, that you're living in a country that is occupied, even if you're a Pole, it's a very cruel occupation where everything was absolutely controlled and any transgression was punishable by death. There were many, many episodes that are described in this book that are really incredible. They sound more like fiction than reality, and I assure you they are reality. It is an adventure story. They are from crossing mountains, from being shot at and pursued by dogs. When you are exposed to Holocaust and you are 15 years old, you're no longer 15 years old. I was taking care of my mother, who was a competent person and a physician, but in those situations, I was the decision maker, because this was a world where a normal adult could not function. It took a teenager with kind of imagination and courage and maybe lack of reasonableness. You had to be unreasonable to some extent to do some of the things that I and others in my situation have done. You had to have a tremendous will to live, resourcefulness, and courage. You ask the average survivor, how did you survive? He says, luck. But if you scratch further, remember, I am a psychiatrist who examined hundreds of survivors in addition to my own story. I always ask, how did you survive? I always got the answer, luck or this. But if I pressed a little further, it wasn't luck, it was resourcefulness. Sure, that wasn't enough. Many people who were courageous and resourceful, didn't make it. But if you were not resourceful and not courageous, you didn't make it for sure. If you were depressed and wanted to die, they accommodate you very quickly. People get disturbed about Holocaust deniers. I remember it, but I don't believe it. It doesn't surprise me that there are people who deny the Holocaust. I wish I could really do it too. I am a professor of psychiatry with considerable experience in human behavior as a forensic psychiatrist. I am a recognized international authority on homicide. Forget about genocide, but homicide, the way people kill other people. I have, over the years, examined hundreds of people who have killed somebody, and some of them were well known, like let's say Jack Ruby or Ted Bundy. I have been involved in the Sam Shepard case. I have been a pioneer in the field, both in testifying, and I was for a long time one of the few, maybe only 2 or 3 in the country who were full-time forensic psychiatrists. In other words, most psychiatrists do guest performances. You know, they occasionally are involved. I was doing it full-time, and I developed, obviously, like anything you do intensively, I developed considerable skill and reputation in this field. Most atrocities have been committed in the name of a good cause. I am trying, in my way, to sort of reconstruct what creates the genocidal mind. What I'm, for example, making a comparison between the Holocaust and 9/11, because even though the scope and the body count was different, the motivation is the same, namely to kill people for who they are, not for what they did. That's the very essence of genocide. And who are people who are committed to genocidal behavior? Are people who are fundamentalist, be it religious or ideological, whether you fascist, communist, whether you a Christian that believes Jews, you know, have no right to exist, or whether you Islamist who believe that Christians have no right to exist. The noble killer who says, I kill for a noble cause, that is a conundrum that we need to consider, because in the past they used guns, in the past they used gas, in the future they're going to use nuclear weapons. So from genocide we can come to globocide.